I'm so glad to welcome Dr. Undavalli Gayatri Prasanna Kumar Garu, Chairman of Mahatma Gandhi National Council for Rural Education, to this conference. Prasanna Kumar Garu has been in the forefront of environmentalist activities and movements. He has held many government responsibilities, government positions for environmental protection, climate change, etc. Let me introduce the chief guest of the day, Undavalli Gayatri Prasanna Kumar Garu, today. He prides in calling himself a public servant working for climate change. His expertise in disaster management has him in the advisory panels of several state and national level departments. He is also an expert advisor for the government of Telangana in its disaster response force endeavor, a master trainer for civil services candidates. He conducts intensive training programs periodically at the behest of nationally recognized training institutes. He is currently actively involved in promoting higher education curriculum addressing rural concerns in India. Villagers to be producers, not just consumers, is his conviction that drives him to work for rural challenges. He aspires for an adaptive, disaster risk resilient, and eco-responsible India. The curriculum on MBA in waste management and social entrepreneurship and BBA and MBA in rural management are his major academic achievements dedicated to India's rural concerns. This has culminated in several collaboration MOUs for introduction of MBA, BBA, rural management in higher education institutions across India. Dr. Prasanna Kumar excels in taking a vision and making it a reality and a plan into action driven by a strong motive to achieve. He has translated positive intentions into tangible results, being clear on the vision, defining a pathway, setting of the track with a clear destination point, and quickly taking corrective actions as and when needed are his prime qualities that make him an achiever. Dr. Prasanna Kumar has held diverse and successful portfolios earlier, including as professor and head Center for Climate Education and Disaster Management in Dr. MCR HRD Institute, where he conducts several capacity building and action research programs in climate education, disaster management, and crowd management. Director, National Green Corps, where he was instrumental in promoting environmental education activities in educational institutions as senior social scientist, AP Telangana Pollution Control Board, where he advocated environmental education and awareness as capacity enhancement specialist, Administrative Staff College of India, ASCI, where he was involved in promoting reforms in municipal administration by documenting the best practices in municipalities and municipal corporations across the country. Dr. Prasanna Kumar holds PhD in education with basic degree in social work and master's degree in sociology, public administration, and political science. He also has professional education in environmental economics, public relations, communication, and training and development. Now he is the chairman of Mahatma Gandhi National Council for Rural Education. And as in this post also, he has done enormous work for higher education in rural education. Thank you, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be the chief guest of the day and to inaugurate this conference. Now I request you to give your inaugural address and bless this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nagaraj Garu. Indic Academy and friends here who are in this program. My deep felt gratitude for inviting me to this workshop and big dais that you have given to interact with you on environmentalism and Hinduism. I have been in this sector for almost, in terms of my mind, yes, more than 36, 37 years. In 1984, first time I attended a conference on Patancheru and the pollution there. Later on in 97, when I joined the Pollution Control Board as a social scientist, and 2000, when I started on this journey on National Green Corps, 2001 onwards, into the curriculum related activities on environmental education. And then 2003 onwards on the textbooks, and 2005, 6 into higher education and environmental education. With the culmination of biological conservation, biological diversity conference, conference on biological conservation of biological diversity, the COP11 on CBD. Then that is when I slowly drifted from environmental work to a broader work of climate change and disaster management. And then later on in this Mahatma Gandhi National Council of Rural Education, also I am part of this program of promoting sustainability in the universities and higher educational institutions across the country. Today we are into ranking of the sustainability of higher educational institutions across the country, district wise, and awarding them annually. That is the work which we have taken. It started initially as Swachhata work, and then now it's transcended into becoming sustainability of the campus and sustainability of the village with which the campus is engaged. That is the direction in which we are going. This topic is very dear to me. Some of the aspects of this topic have gone into the textbooks that we have written for intermediate, and the action activity books that we have produced for class 1 to class 12. And these were also part of the B.Ed education and the graduate education, and of course now part of the present effort in promoting sustainability of higher educational institutions and sustainability in the villages with which the higher educational institutions are engaged with. So it's a long journey. It's a long journey of 25 full years of work in this sector. I will share initially a little bit about the engagement with the Pollution Control Board. My interaction would be into looked at as two parts. One part will be on the legislation requirements, legal compliance in the environment sector today, the way they are available to us. The second half, I would like to link it with what is expected to what was there in the text and how they are connected. I'm also part of Samskriti Foundation, where we are into promoting public policy, taking the cultural roots, that India's public policy in every domain gets rooted strongly, gets connected strongly with the cultural domain. Somehow with the colonial education that we are still continuing with, most of it is still continued. We are trying to make a dent with the National Education Policy 2020. But nevertheless, the impact of the colonialism is very, very strongly found. So we are shown what to read and what to see. And we are made to see what to see. And we are made to hear what they want to see, want us to hear. That's how our education has been completely truncated. So in that context, we are trying to look at the environment, field of environmentalism, field of environmental work. In Western world, there is one small theory of deep ecology where they would talk about the intrinsic value of life and life forms and non-life forms. Everything has an intrinsic value, but deep ecology is not rooted in the religions or in the philosophies of those religions promoted by those religions, Abrahamic religions or otherwise. So, looking at the way we are handling or will be handling our environment sector and connecting it with the texts and also the culture and the civilizational background that we have a lot of work. I would like to collaborate with Hindic Academy. The Samskruti Foundation would like to collaborate with Hindic Academy. And as a person, I am committed to working in this sector the rest of my life. So, keeping that in mind, I am looking at this as a learning opportunity, not as a speaking opportunity. I want to clearly admit that I am not an expert in this area. I am a learner. I would like to be through all these sessions that you are conducting in these 2 days. I would like to attend as much as possible. Try and see if some of my administrative works can be pushed backside and this becomes the prime thing. Learning from the great audience, great contributors of this 2 days program. So friends, India's environmental regime or environmental governance regime starts with the Water Act and 1974. Later on, we went into Air Act 1981 and then 86 Environment Protection Act. So we started looking at water first and then went into air and then went into environment protection immediately after the Bhopal gas disaster. Bhopal gas disaster is something which has pushed our governance systems and our regulatory system to look at environment as a whole, not as parts. 74, we came out with the Water Act in the context of Stockholm Conference. Stockholm Conference, the first time we have looked at intergenerational equity as the basis for sustainability. Whatever we have in this generation should be available for the next generation, because next generation would be anyway much more evolved than us, and they will be utilizing whatever resources that we have much more frugally, much more effectively than our generation. That is the principle there. Intergenerational equality, that is you making things available for the next generation also. That is also a definition of sustainable development. So the way we consume, we need to keep it in mind that that is available for the next generation also. So whatever we consume, we need to consume only that which can be available for the next generation also at the level that at which we consume it right now. So whatever is redeemable is to be consumed. Whatever is not redeemable should not be consumed, because that will not be available for the next generation. So use only that which can be redeemable, which will be reproduced by nature as it is. So that is the basis of sustainable development argument, and that is the basis for the Water Act 1974. And then when we found that Water Act is not enough to handle the biggest problem that was emerging at that time, that is the air pollution. Hence, we went into air, because first, what is appearing, what is in front of us, what is down at our feet is water. And when you lift your head, you will find air up, the color of the air, or the dirty air, or the smoke, or the polluted air. So we went into the air, from water to air, and then we found that this water and air business will not work unless we take a holistic view. That was the context of this Bhopal gas disaster, which has affected lives and livelihoods, which is which is one of the biggest disasters in the human history, and it is industrial. It is man-made disaster. It's not something like uh, a natural disaster. It's not a volcano. It's not an earthquake. It's not a flood. It's not a drought. It's not something which is coming from outside, but it was coming from the failure of humans to handle equipment, processes, products, and maintenance of the equipment which would actually process some product, some raw material into a finished or intermediary product. So, friends, it is in this context that we have got Environment Protection Act. We, of course, have Forest Conservation Act, which try to handle the forests and which has that dictum that we need to have at least 33% of geographical area under green cover. So we need to conserve the forests. As you all know, conserve has two components. One is consumption, second is preservation. So you have taken con from the first word and serve from the second, and then you made something called as conserve, which means consume but also preserve in a way that it is available for next generation. So conservation comes from the theory of sustainability. So friends, it is in this context that India has been working, Bharat has been working in the regulatory as well as administrative domains. Pollution control boards were created as per the Water Act, and then Air Act was also added to their goal and their role. And then 1986, the Environment Protection Act has made their role a little bit broader. So any activity which is likely to harm human and life forms, any activity which is likely to create imbalance to the wholesomeness of water, these are all defined as pollution. So wholesomeness of water is something which is there, and that if it is disturbing, then it is called as water pollution. So we have got this the acts and the fourth act, the Forest Act, together handling the water, air, tree and plant as well as the animal wealth. So protection of animal and plant wealth is possible through the Forest Act. That's what we believe. Protection of life is possible with protection of water and air, and hence the environment. That's what we believe with these three regulations. So Forest Act is regulated or implemented by the Forest Department, and the Environment Protection Act, the Air Act and Water Act are implemented by the pollution control boards. So 1991, this public liability insurance has come in. That is, okay, if you have destroyed, disturbed, damaged environment, do you have an opportunity, do you have a method of handling that destruction, damage of the environment or that which is damaged? Because they will not go for claiming damages. You will have to work for them. Water body will not go to the court and ask for damages, redemption. The air cannot go to the court of law or come to any administrative officer and complain, see, I am getting polluted. This fellow is polluting or this organization is polluting. So it is the bounden duty of the regulator to take into consideration the wholesomeness of water and also the quality of air. That is why we have standards for water quality and standards for air quality created as per the Environment Protection Act, and then these standards are to be maintained to see that the life goes on and the life forms are not affected. So Environment Protection Act gives us opportunities of creating standards and from time to time making the standards stringent and regulating and implementing the standards. So for implementing the standards, we have monitoring of Indian national aquatic resources, that is all water bodies across the country are monitored in terms of their quality through this program. Next is the air quality across the country is monitored through ambient air quality monitoring stations, continuous ambient air quality monitoring stations across the country. That means you have a thermometer for water and you have a thermometer for the air, or a meter for the water pollution and meter for the air pollution being measured across the country, irrespective of somebody giving a complaint or somebody asking for it. It becomes the duty of the state to monitor the quality of air, quality of water, and the quality of forest is also monitored after the GIS has come in, and we will know exactly what is the quantum of forests in an area. In fact, today when we are from Mahatma Gandhi National Council of Rural Education, when we are looking at the sustainability of any campus, we go through the Google map and look at what is the extent of greenery in the campus. So campus cannot give some lies. They cannot say that we have 40%, 50% greenery. Google map is available in front of us. We can go to the lowest possible place, and then we can look at what is the extent of green cover in the campus, what is the extent of playground area, and what is the extent of built up area. In fact, from the Google map, we also find out how many solar panels each college has across the country, from Jammu Kashmir to Andaman and Nicobar. Any college is claiming that they have solar energy already installed. We look at the panels which are there on their head, on their building top, and look at each panel contributing to some 400 units of power every day. 400, yeah. So that is there is a calculation by which we try to look at what is the greenery available, what is the solar power available, power possible from that place. So friends, this is the regime which is available in the technology that is available. So air has some possibility of taking some level of pollution and some level of disturbance of its quality. Water also has certain level of possibility of handling certain level of disturbance to its quality. These are the terms that we use technically are carrying capacity and assimilative capacity. Assimilative capacity is that which is external to environment, comes into environment, gets assimilated into the environment without causing much difference. It's like, you are adding one drop of ink to a barrel of water, doesn't actually change any quality in the water, but it is additionality. The water quality more or less is similar. But then if you are putting one ounce of ink, maybe the color is changed a little bit. As you increase the quality of the ink and quality of and quantity of the ink, the quality of the water in the drum changes. So at a particular point of time, you can definitely see that there's a change in the color, then that means the quality of the water is changed. So to the extent that it is not changing the quality of the water to the perceptible level, to the measurable level, to the level that we have for chemical oxygen demand and biological oxygen demand, pH and dissolved oxygen, till that time it is okay as long as the external item is coming into water body. It is not changing the wholesomeness of water. The moment it changes the wholesomeness of water, it is called as water pollution. Then what is this extent, or when do you call it as changing? That is where you come with the standard. Central Pollution Control Board comes out with the standards, and these standards are made stringent from time to time by the state pollution control boards or central pollution control boards. Standards are dependent upon the measuring capacity of us. So instruments have measuring capacity. There are some instruments which can measure some components of air pollution. Some can measure lead, some can measure sulfur dioxide, some can measure the benzene, Some can measure the not nitrous oxides or carbon monoxide. So equipment has its own limitation. A thermometer cannot be a barometer also. Thermometer cannot be the pulse oximeter. So each one has its own role. In the same fashion, the equipment has its own limitations. Basing on the limitations, basing on integration of these limitations and strengths, the equipment is designed from time to time. Equipment keeps on improving, and we get to know more and more aspects of the air and more aspects of the water. So we get to know the quality of water as it's changing from monsoon to the dry seasons, as it's changing from the availability of plenty of rainwater to the availability of very little groundwater also. So it is in this context that we are looking at the air and water pollution. So we are now at a point where we need to go beyond all this. What is the ethic? What is the ethic of conservation? Is it the instrumentality of today? Chalega, it can happen. We can handle this situation. So many people, so many industries can come to this area. Carrying capacity of a particular region is this region can take so much of water pollution load, so much of air pollution load. Beyond this air pollution load, this region will become dysfunctional. So we were talking about assimilative capacity. Now we are looking at the the capacity to handle the 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 pollutant in a particular area, the carrying capacity. That means the pollutants are there; they are not vanishing. It is not like the compost. Before composting, it is low. It is harmful, and after composting, it becomes manure. But in carrying capacity, we look at anyway it is harmful, it is there, but how long can you bear it, or how much can you bear it? So basing on that, we have the carrying capacity, and if the area is the amount of pollution in a particular area has come to the level that you cannot actually handle beyond, then threshold value, then we go to uh, declaring that area as not fit for any further expansion of industry or any particular activity, including housing or urban activity. So all this point out to one point, that is there are limits. So limits to growth is something which we all have come to realize as part of our learning in environment sector. So now coming to Hinduism, Hinduism has in it the text and the context also. As per the changing context, the texts are evolved. That is why Hinduism is one of the most scientific religions in the world, or one of the most scientific ways of looking at the world. So in when we started the morning with the prayer, which is brought out by the government of India, we're saying Bhumi, and then water, and then you go on to saying that human life, and then and other lives, all forms of life being connected. Is connecting the all forms of life and non-life is intrinsic to Hinduism, and that is what makes it the most environmentalistic religion in the world. So if you are looking at the one form of one school of thought is the best among all living and non-living things are me. That is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. But there's also another way of putting it, by the way Adi Shankara has put it, in terms of looking at everything being mithya and everything being the same. Brahman being there, and Brahman being identical to Atman, and it is not being different, they are identical, which would get into the view of the living and non-living, that is the water or the hill or the tree or the animal or the human, they're all part form of Brahma. When Krishna opens his mouth in Bhagavata, he will show Akhilanda Brahmanda in the mouth. So the living forms, the earth, the seas, everything is available, and that's all that is part of the superhuman or oneness. So the biological entity has an intrinsic value, and Atman also has, like Atman, and it is constituted by Brahman is one view. So Ramanujan's, when you look at Ramanuja's philosophy, uh, Brahma is the creator of all things, and both eternal and matter constitute God's body. So God's body, everything which we see and which we do not see is part of God's body. So when Swami Vivekananda says that we are all dots in the circle, and this circle is Paramatma, and we are all Atmas, and this Paramatma uh, is all pervasive. Or when we are looking at every living being having equal right to live, to exist, and to be there, then we are looking at the aspect of their being equal to us, their being equal in terms of their value, intrinsic value. So there is an environmental ethic in the way we handle the the nature around us and the humans around us. So when we are looking at the evolution of human life from water to through these Dasavatara evolution, finally onto human, we are looking at the possibility of emanation. So there are three arguments which are there in terms of environmentalism. One is that everything has Atma, so they are valuable. So and second is whether anything which is biological has Atma and is part of Brahma, they're all equal. So in this life, we may be something. Next life, we may be born as something else. So that which will be born as something else, or that which we are today, which is a part of a cycle, indicates that there is that sameness between this generation and the next generation, and the need to give to this generation as well as the next generation same amount of possibility of exploring this world. So when we are looking at the science of environment, then the science of environment of the West is positivistic in that human is different from that which is observing. So human is different from the tree, the water, the mountain, the land. So he is not the same. There is no unity between the human and the water, the tree, the mountain, and the land. So human has the power or upper hand or the determining force over all the other things. The what happens to water, what happens to tree, what happens to mountains, what happens to animals, what happens to the birds and animals are all decided by human, because human has intellect and he is on the top of the pyramid. So being in the top of the on the top of the pyramid, with the positivistic science, we look at everything as experimentable, everything as modelable, changeable. So it is not, I am not that. So that is different from me. So I can experiment, I can do, I can model, I can model, I can play around with that. So that is the part of the positivistic theory. But Indian science or Indian philosophy looks at that also being part of me and me being part of that. I am not different from that. So when I am studying something, I need to study that in relation to what I am also. So I am not different from that. I am part of that. So whatever I do to the water, whatever I do to the tree, whatever I do to the land, whatever I do to the animals and plants will affect me. I cannot be disconnected from that. This is the Indian view, which is the modern environmental view also. Modern environmental view is that whatever you are doing, wherever you are connecting, wherever you are trying to make a change or a dent, that has an impact on us. That's where the conventional biological diversity has come in, where we are looking at species diversity being protected, the diversity in various elements, genetic diversity also being maintained, because all that makes the whole of the nature, the human, everything together, it makes the whole. So that whole is environment in which we are all part of. So when we look at our science, we look at sacredness in human beings. Yes, sacredness in, because there is Atman everywhere. Sacredness in animals. Yes, we look at the Atman in that. But we also look at sacredness in the grooves. We have sacred grooves, areas of trees which are protected, which are not impinged upon, where we do not violate the right of the plant or the tree in that particular area. Certain plants, certain trees, which we also call as keystone species maybe. But they all are protected, they are valued and they are respected, and they are left alone, they are fetched, they are supported. Not only trees, we also have sacred tanks. We protect the water in tanks, we protect the water in water bodies. We protect the water in the rivers, we protect the water in the sea also. We look at the wholesomeness of water in the sea as well as in the river. We revere them, not only protect, we revere them, we respect them. We bow before the water, bow before the trees, bow before the mountains, bow before the animals and plants. So there is a way by which we also look at the totems and taboos in this. We have totems and taboos which are linked to plants and animal species as part of our tradition. Religion has integrated these aspects in itself. Hindu religion has integrated the way we handle the lizards, the way we handle the cats, the dogs, the cows, various animals, the monkeys, and how we have related them to be the vahana, or the only way by which God can move is taking the help of animal or bird. The moment of God is seen in the moment of animals and birds that we have around them. So this concept of sacredness for protection of living and non-living things is intrinsic to Hindu religion. Hinduism looks at Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu and Ahimsa Paramo Dharmaha. Lokan Samastan Sukhino Bhavantu. So when we are looking at everybody being happy, everything being happy, every being being happy, then we are looking at the wholesomeness of the world or wholesomeness of the environment, wholesomeness of the universe, and connectedness in this universe. That's what makes Hinduism as modern environmentalism. Hinduism is not only traditional environmentalism, but it is modern environmentalism. Any further regulation in environment sector is to be traced keeping these aspects of the right to existence for every being and every non-being also. Not only Atman, but also the Paramatman which is there in every non-living being also. The hills, the rivers, the seas. All of them have a right to live, right to exist. And they need to be honored. This right needs to be honored. Prithvi Sukta says that earth is our mother and we all are her children. So the beauty and the profusion are vividly there in this Prithvi Sukta. So keeping these things in mind, when we are looking at Bhagavad Gita, when Lord Krishna says that, Bhagavan Krishna says that Atma cannot be destroyed by air, fire, water, earth. Nothing can destroy it. Nothing can change the form of Atma. Then we are one way looking at everything being, non-destroyable in terms of the life inside. But we also look at uh, everything being part of God's body. So everything being part of God's body, we are not looking at destroying or affecting or cutting through or changing the form of through an artificial means any of these living and non-living things. So it's an area which has both dimensions of non-destroyability as well as dimension of protection, dimension of non-destruction as paramount, and the dimension of non-destructibility also imbibed in it. So keeping these things in mind, taking the texts and the evolving context, we look at the environmentalism and the role of Hinduism in promoting environmentalism and protection and conservation of natural resources. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity for sharing some of my thoughts. They're all mundane, they're all very nascent. I am a learner, I'm a beginner in this area. So I would be learning from all of you. I will try to sit through all these sessions, and I would like to work with your group and learn from each of you and contribute to the field of knowledge in whichever way I can. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad, namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you very much, Dr. Prasanna Kumar Garu. That was such an enlightening talk. Your depth of knowledge in the environmental practice, basically from a policy point of view, and from the environmental science, environmental engineering, environmental chemistry point of view, and then you traversed the ideas within Hinduism from Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya to Ramanujacharya, and covered all the relevant concepts of Hinduism, which are relevant for an environmentalist understanding. And thank you very much for emphasizing the fact that Hinduism is not just traditional environmentalism, it is new environmentalism, it is contemporary environmentalism, and new ideas that are going to come. The futuristic environmentalist ideas are also already embedded in Hindu environmentalism. Is a very great proposal, a very great statement that comes from persons like you. Thank you very much for such a great enlightening talk. Uh, we have our Veda mantras right from Rig Veda mantras itself. We have uh, as the statement. Many mantras end with words like don't create violence against them. And interestingly, one of them is Prithvi. Uh, don't create violence against earth also is one of the statements. And we have mantras where it is declared that yo apamayatanam Veda. This is all the Hindus hear this mantra every day in the temples, but it is saying that yo apamayatanam Veda ayatanavan bhavati. Who realizes that water is the source of everything will only get the sustenance. So that significance of water is emphasized there. And if we go into the details of the various texts and Veda mantras and all that, we get so many evidences to confirm what you have said, sir. Thank you very much for blessing this conference with your presence. And you are so humble to say that you are a learner here. Thank you very much for accepting to be present during some of our conference papers also. Uh, Thank you very much.